guys. Hi, welcome.
Hello.
Hi, I don't know what to do. That's not the light I thought it was. It's this way. Okay. So this is the light board. It's an ETC element. Let's see, I'm trying to think of like where it's best to start.
Pretend you're teaching a class of first graders.
Yeah. So the light board's the
Really
computer. It's the computer that runs the lights.
Okay.
Yeah. ETC is the brand, so if you ever like need to Google something like, oh, well, how do I do this on this board? You can Google ETC element. There's plenty of great training videos that'll probably drop in the group afterwards for like super detailed stuff. But if you're curious, that's just what it is. So out of the back of it, there's just DMX cables, like 2 different cables. They look like mic cables.
What's a DMX cable?
Josh, stop asking questions. You're not allowed. DMX cables, they look like mic cables. They run to the lights from the booth and run to all the lights. So if you're having an issue where like an entire large section of the lights is not working or flickering, probably it's just a DMX and the back of the board's loose.
Are there dimmer boxes in this?
Yes, so we have 2 dimmer boxes. We have one in the booth that's a 4-channel that does just the house lights right now. And then these guys are all on a 12-channel that are backstage. So when you turn the board on, you should turn the board on first, let it boot up, and then go into the green room. There's a big breaker box and a small breaker box. The big breaker box has spike tape on all the things that need to turn on for lights. So it's green spike tape. There's some with pink that is for lights and sound. So if sound's still working, don't turn it off on them. I've done that before and Josh gets grumpy.
Green tape, you said?
Yeah, green is where all the lights are. And there's 3 main sections. And then back in the wing itself, in the crossover between the black box, it's a rack mount unit. Basically, it's just this big metal box. There's 13 switches on the top. You just need to turn on the first because that's the master switch, and then there's 12 individual for all the individual outlets.
We can walk over there.
Yeah, we'll walk over there when there's not as many children around.
So rewind, go to the green room and
Yeah.
turn on the green tape what?
Breaker box. It's just a normal breaker box.
Okay. And then go backstage and turn on the master.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called a dimmer rack, and that controls conventionals, which are these kind of lights.
The one with the 12.
Yeah. To control a light, there's a few different ways. So specifically what you do is there's a keypad here, and you would say like 50, once it's all set up and patched, you say 50 at full. So in the patch screen, you'll give each light an address number, which is on the back of the light, and then a channel number. There's 2 separate numbers.
What is this program called that you're using?
ETC EOS. EOS is the software, Element's the computer, and ETC's the brand. But if you Google ETC Element or EOS, it'll bring it up.
And it's not like a computer where you have to open the program.
Yeah, it will just boot straight up into the program, into the last open show.
Okay.
Yeah. So, hi, welcome.
So can you start from the very beginning? Like, I'm talking the very beginning. How do I start with a totally blank slate?
So you don't want to do that because for this show, we're gonna just, because I've already set everything up all nice and pretty, and it's a lot of extra work you have to redo. Since we never move a light in this space, more or less, you don't have to.
But
So-
let's say you were gonna go do a new show.
Okay, new show. What you do is you go down to this menu. There's a little triangle and a locks pull up here. It'll bring up, it's called your CIA. It changes to a lot of different things depending on what screen you're on. CIA is,
So helpful.
I know, it's supposed to be the flexible zone. On the screen right here, on the keypad, there's a thing that's browser. If you hit browser, it'll bring up this menu, which is like the main menu. And it has a file drop-down menu, an exit, a power off device, a setup, a clear, etc., etc. So when you shut it off, power off device clearly, but file, and then as long as you're in OPA base, currently it's November 2021 is what it is called. As it gets updated, it'll change. But the OPA base file, you'll go into open, scroll down, there's OPA base patch, and then there's the different names of it. So you can find whatever one's the most current. Hey, Bo. So, go find the most current, load that up, And then once you're in the right show file that's already been patched and has the magic sheet and has all the submasters and everything, then you go to, yeah. And then you'll go to Save As, Show File Archive, and then you'll make a new folder, which is at the very bottom, label it and name it, whatever, like if you're doing Legally Blonde, name it Opah Legally Blonde, and then double click the folder name. So say like if I'm gonna save back into the base show file thingy, Opah base patch, then you double click the folder in the Save As menu. Then it says, do you really want to save? Yes. It'll ask you to name it, and you name it Opah Legally Blonde, Opah Disenchanted, whatever, and then you save it.
So you've taken the base file and just like made a copy.
Yeah, exactly.
And named it what you want it so that you don't overwrite the base file with your new set.
Exactly. Okay. And then in the base file, you'll have all the patching and all the magic sheets and all the back-end work should be done.
What does patching mean?
Patching is every light has a number attached to it. Like if you look at some of these, you'll see like
the addresses?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So they'll have the addresses on there, which are the little red LED screens, and they say anywhere from 1 to 512. And that's for one universe. And then there's another universe that is 2/1 through 512. So that's why there's two cables coming out the back of it. Each line has 512 what's called attributes. So red is one attribute, green is another attribute, brightness is another attribute. So these complicated ones that are like the spotlights with like gobo wheels and stuff, they have 11 attributes in them, so they take 11 slots. This light that just comes on and turns and dims is one attribute. So that's what patching is. And then,
sorry dude, I'm gonna ask a lot.
It's okay. It's okay, I get it. And then once you're on the board, you go into this patch menu, which is already all set up. You don't have to worry about it. And then you assign the address number, which is the range of numbers, to a single number. And they can be whatever. But again, you're not gonna have to do that. I've already set them all up, and then I put them into a magic sheet for you, so it's even easier. So these are the channel numbers. So 1 might be address 36 through 72, but then 1 is just that light right there. And then if you open up this menu, which I'll show you in a second, you can control it without having to individually control aspects.
Okay, so how did you just...
We'll get to there in a second.
How did you open up the...
It's called ML controls. There's a button on it. There's a button on it. I'll show you in a second, though.
Do you have hard copies of the magic sheet?
I do somewhere.
Okay.
But I might have to just make it better because it's not very pretty right now. But so down here, there's different tabs. Live summary, which is the table view, and then live MS, which is this view, which is a diagram of what the stage is.
So, sorry.
It's okay.
For the purposes of this theater, are the universes organized like geographically? So,
No,
or is it just totally random
it's
and you just have to...
the movers are in one universe and everything else is in the other universe.
I'm gonna
It's okay.
hopefully get closer.
No, it's okay. So, and you can zoom in once you're in here. So this section over here is a graph. So this light is that light. Mm-hmm. This is the star curtain. And then there's also these boxes that are the groups. So say like I want all the lights on this half of the stage, you can do that.
That is so much nicer.
No, it's super nice. Or if you only want one specific light, or this is, and they're all labeled so you can see like spots, new spots, old spots. So if I want all the spots on at once, you can just select it.
Are those numbers the channels?
These numbers, yes, and then these are the group numbers. So the group has a separate number system. So like light 58 right here, but it's group 8. And they're like mix and match. The numbers don't matter on the groups as much because they're all labeled for names.
You can pull lights out of a group if you need to?
Yeah, so say like I have group 8 picked out, but I don't want this guy right here. Oh wait, here I have to clear it first.
Will you turn on like all the group and then just like take one away just
Yeah.
so you can see it?
So if you want, here's group 8, and then you can clear and then take group 57 out, which is right there.
Okay, so did you just do like 57 0 or what?
Yeah, 57 at. There's an at out and at 0. They're the same thing, but here. Well, let's keep on going back in order just real fast. So
Is there a rhyme or reason to the numbers of the groups?
That's what I was.
the groups, there was at one point.
Or is it group 66, group 342?
So the idea originally was 1 and 2 are gonna come from this way, 3 and 4 were these two, and then 5 was the movers, 6 was the wash mover units, 7 was Star Curtain, I think, 8 was something else. There was a rhyme or reason that kind of fell apart, but like anything coming from this direction is a 3 or a 30. Anything coming from that direction is a 4 or a 40. Yeah, but then there was like some just throw it in for rent. So like the bar lights are 6, the backlight is 7. I think there's an 8 for Star Curtain's 9. Yeah, and then
So did you say that you changed some of them because of rent?
yeah, just because I had to add some more in to make it look nice and pretty, and I just wasn't
You
able
added
to
more
read it.
lights that weren't in groups before.
Kinda, yeah,
Okay.
basically. So to turn the light on and like the base, ignoring the magic sheet, you just find the number, you know the number, there's a paper one, or if you like you do it enough, you memorize it. So 1 at full, that's your most simple command, is turning it on. At 50, at 30, at 0. Or you can hit at, and it will automatically take to what's called level, which is a predetermined value you can set in settings. I think it's 70 right now. No, it's 50 right now. So if you need a quick 50, just double click at. And then once you have your light, you still have number 1 selected, and you're like, okay, that's a really ugly white light, but I want it to be red, dramatic, Jekyll and Hyde confrontation style. You can pick this guy to pick a color from the color picker, or if you know, I want it to be fully red, nothing else in it, you have red, green, blue, white. So you do max red, minimum everything else. Now you have just red. And you can do that to any light that has like a different attribute.
Does that one have UV on it? 'Cause I'm not seeing it.
This one does not have UV on it. We don't have anything that has UV that works right now.
Okay.
So we have some that used to, but the UV burnt out.
I'll get you a glow stick.
Perfect.
No, it's just my lights. When I try to do that, the UV is always on and you can't take it off. It's the weirdest thing.
Really?
So
That's
you have to
very-
like make sure to take it off, or else the colors don't work.
Yeah.
So I was just looking to see if it was the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah, it is just RGBW, and then it has some animation effects, but they're not very good. They like are kind of weird. Yeah, it's very annoying. I would stay away from those effects because they just don't look good.
Is that like a rough and ready filter you have on there, or what?
It's just wax paper.
Right.
Oh, I was right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just
To filter it.
basically it's just to diffuse it. Yeah, because diffusion paper is $20 a sheet, and that's $20 a roll. So yeah, so that's kind of the general, like, very simple. Pick a light, pick a this, pick a that.
It looks like it shows up whatever color it is.
It does.
That's
yes.
nice.
So if you're looking and you're like, oh, I want to know at full this whole thing, they're all white right now, but I want them to all be blue, they will change to blue on your thing. Also on this magic sheet, you have the color wheel. You have red, orange. So if you just want a quick color pick, you can, and you don't want to mix it, it's in here. And then you have a cool white, a warm white, and a true white. So just for ease sake.
So those three boxes aren't lights. They're just they're controlling those ones more there.
So these boxes
Yeah.
are groups of lights.
But it's controlling the lights that you've got yellow right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this one, and then you can tell what,
Read the sheet.
it's okay. So here, if I go to blue, you can see there's a golden ring around it. That means it's selected, but since we selected group 3, it selected everything in group 3. For like these moving lights, so this one's gonna be this guy right here that's pointed down. You can either go into here and you can pick this to move it around, but it's very complicated. Sorry, I'm gonna blind you guys. This is finer control. So pan and tilt, pans to, oh sorry, it's right on you.
Keep doing this to me, Colton.
Just to make you mad. And then tilts up and down. The XYZ, you can't really use it. It won't work how it's supposed to because we don't have it set up because it's too old of a board. It will die. And then you have colors. So these guys don't have color mixing. It's just color wheels. These are your only options, or these 7. And then they also have, so shutter strobe is if you hit strobe, it'll flash for you wherever it's at, yeah. And then you can click on this bit and change the speed to like get more fine control.
Because we want our audience to have seizures.
Yeah. Well, for like the transformation in Beauty and the Beast, it was really helpful. And then you also have gobos in these lights. Oh, here,
So
one.
how do you say I want it to strobe for 5 seconds, then turn off every time? How would you save that?
You would have it be 2 different cues, which we'll get to in a second. Is how I would do it.
And you can have the cues
Yeah,
auto do it, go to the next.
it's okay. We'll get to there in a second, Josh. I know. So yeah, gobos are texture and patterns, and they look really cool filtering through the fog or the haze. So if you look to there's dots now on the floor, and then you can make it be so that there's those type of dots or those type of dots or this kind of swirly pattern. That's just gobos, textures, they do lots of things. Also on this magic sheet, we have focus points in kind of the cross of how the stage is set up. So if you know someone's in the VOM, you hit that button, it'll automatically point it to the VOM. If you know someone's standing center up stage, you hit that button, it automatically takes it there.
I have to ask, is this new?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And it is freaking.
I just redid a whole bunch of it.
Lifetime fixing it up.
Yeah,
Okay, because I was gonna say this is amazing because
Yes.
I tried to program lights and been like, ah.
yes.
Where's the light from?
So,
This is great.
yeah.
Awesome.
So this capability has been here, it's just no one set it up.
Yeah.
Um,
Nobody is as smart as you with the light.
Exactly, Josh. Thank you for stroking my ego. So to get into ML control, which is where the color thing picker is, there's 2 options. You can either go up here and click it, and it's a pop-out one, or in that CIA we talked about, there's a button on this board called that's ML control in the top section that brings it up in the bottom and keeps it up there. It's just user preference, how you want to use it if you need a color mix specifically. A useful set of keys are go to cue out, which will completely clear the slate to a blackout, but it will also make sure that there's no colors left in the lights. So like if you turn it off, it'll turn everything back to its home value, which is white, pointed straight down, etc., etc. If you do go to cue 0, it'll turn them all off, but it'll keep that color value. So if you want to go to a blackout, but you want to keep it's pointing this direction when you're programming for whatever reason, go to cue 0. And then
What was the first one that you said?
go to cue out.
Cue out.
Yeah. So it's go to, there's a button,
Everything.
There's a go-to button.
there's a go to cue button, and then you hit out, enter. And then there's a go to cue 0, enter. And then the other one that's really nice to have to be using is if you're in a queue and you change something, like I turn on these lights for this queue, and then I say, actually, before you record it, you say, I hate that. You hit clear. There's a button called sneak, which is over here on this right-hand side. Enter, and it will take it back to whatever the pre-saved values are. So if you're in a queue and you have, like, you're trying to spotlight Josh, and he's like standing in it already, and then you move the light, and you're like, oh shoot, I wasn't supposed to move that light. Clear, sneak, enter will just will restore wherever you were before.
It's like
It's like an undo button.
it's like
Yes.
yeah, undo.
There is an undo button on here. That's for like bigger things that you've saved. That clear, sneak, enter is like a slow fade back to like if you're in a live event, you're like, oh shoot, I want to like slowly take that back to wherever. Clear, sneak, enter. Yeah. Clear, which is like the backspace on this board. Sneak, enter.
And that basically undoes your last lighting decision.
Yeah, if you haven't saved it. So if I,
Lighting decision.
yeah, so if I say like, I want this group to be all red, and then like, oh crap, but I can't remember exactly where it's mixed to, but I only want, so then you hit clear to clear out your command line down here, sneak, enter, and it will slowly fade it back
To what it was previous.
to what it was to where it's recorded to. So if I changed it and I said,
So if you change like 3 or 4 different lights, would it undo all of those lights? if you hadn't saved
yes,
it? Okay.
yes, but if you want to, you can just say, I only want to make channel 55 sneak enter, so you can do 55 sneak enter and only move the one light back.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, it's a lot to handle. You can,
Is it like a 5-second fade back?
I think we have ours set to 3,
Okay.
but it's set, there's a, yeah.
Scratch
It's just a fade back. Let's see, clear sneak enter. Where else do I have on my notes? Oh, okay. Submasters. These will be kind of nice for you during concerts if you like are kind of in like a little bit of an oh crap moment. So I'm gonna clear. I'm gonna go to queue, out. Then you have all these beautiful sliders over here. One of them has house lights on it, and they're all gonna get labeled sometime in the near future. I just haven't done that yet. And then, those are on this fader. There's one with the hazer on it, which you can hear. And then, so like if you need to quickly like mix to a show, you just have submasters. They're already pre-built for you. You have these that like warm light, blue, cyan, purple.
Colter,
Yeah.
can you set a submaster and record it as a queue?
Set us up. How do you mean?
Set it up and then record this as a queue. That way you don't have to do that again.
Yes, you can. It does get a little weird. It's not how I would recommend doing it because you don't have as much control. And then you have also like here. So submasters are just a quick, easy way of doing it. So like if you're in an oh crap moment.
Can you use the faders to set a basic look for a scene, save it, and then go and edit it?
Yes. So the other option is there's a knob at the very top here that says channels 1 through 40, 41 through 80, and then 120. Those have just the brightness of everything. So if you ever need to find like a specific light or do something quick, you can do it on there. I would not use that ever. It's not as pretty. Okay.
Thank you. I'm really excited about the sliders.
Okay. I know sliders, they're easy. I will continue to like fix them and upgrade them so they look prettier. I don't use them very often because I don't like, they're so specific. For this board, for this magic sheet, you have this group, which is group 4 is anything on that side. 43 is the group of 4 up top. 44 is the group of 4 down. 41 is the 4 in. 42 is the 4 out. So if you look at like, it'll do those 4. If you pick this one instead, it'll do the outer 4, so on and so forth. So it's supposed to be kind of like semi-intuitive. And then for here, these are the conventionals, which are these lights. They're built in the same kind of format, except for if you do this one, it is like circling someone. If you do this one, it is just the like both that direction, if that makes sense.
Nope.
Okay.
Where is Mod, Coulter?
Do you mind
Yeah,
just
that one
clicking
went
on
over
them and
my
then we
head.
can
Yeah,
see
of course.
where they're
So I'm
at?
gonna just sneak now.
I'm just an idiot.
Yeah.
Once upon a time I was smart.
It's okay, it's really complicated, and until you play with it, it kind of is weird. So this group right here, which is 55, it looks like, are these 4, which are focused to be the upstage section. There's another group that's kitty corner that points this section. Or if you want anything that's facing this direction or anything that's facing this direction, that'll be the center up and down, if that makes sense. So yeah, so like the up left one is this group. The up middle one, I guess, is this group. Down middle is the group that's facing this way. This one is the group that's surrounding this way. So if you have 2 like playing spaces, those are the 2 playing spaces, if that makes sense.
And is it the same problem using those to program cues that there was with the sliders, or is it?
No, this is how you probably should
Okay.
program your shows, just because it's much easier.
Yeah.
If you're recording cues. Much easier, yeah. Than having to memorize, oh, I know that this is cute. This is fixed 60s right here.
Yeah.
Or memorizing your groups. So like I know that like group 1 is all these ones right here. But and then if you can just look at it and just select them. And then if you,
You select more than.
Yes.
Oh, you just did the thing that I asked.
yeah, I was like, I knew that was gonna be the next question.
So essentially, right, there's lots of ways to program lights in general, a
Yeah.
light,
A light, groups
you
of
can-
lights.
groups of lights. So there's groups that are already set up, which are just essentially from how you would organize the
Yeah.
lights.
Yeah.
Then there's, I mean, theoretically, you could click group 3, or you could just drag and grab all those lights, or you could enter in all the different light numbers and program each light individually.
Yep.
Okay.
There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. So that's just how to turn on the lights. Next step is actually recording a cue. So if you're doing an actual show. So first you figure out what you want your cue to look like. I want my cue to have a really dramatic backlight from that side, and I want it to be purple. And then I want just this single light to be on. That's the wrong light. I don't want the light to be on. I want this light to be on. Because for whatever reason else, dramatizing over there. Then on the board, there's a record button. So record. And then when you type in a number, it'll automatically fill in the word cue. If you're trying to record anything besides a cue, you'll have to put that in. But if you just hit record 1, it'll say record cue 1 already. You hit enter, great, you have your first cue built. So you go from what's the preset cues, which I've made, you turn these on to warm the lights up so they don't blow up on you. They won't hurt, it's just like you'll have to replace a lamp or the bulb, then it's really annoying. So you go to cue 1, it'll default to 3 seconds as a fade time. Then you find your next cue. My next cue is now I want the other half of the stage to go to full, and this time it's gotta be blue. And then record. You can either say record cue 2. I go every other number. So normally what you should do is like the new standard is you start in cue 2, 4, 6, 8, etc., etc. So if you go back and you say, oh crap, there needs to be a blackout between cues 44 and 46, you can put it in instead of having to say 46.2, which you can put in point numbers. So I say record cue 5 for this number, and it goes from here, 3 seconds to go to here, and then 3 seconds to go to here. And then say, oh no, I need a blackout between 3 and 4, because you put in so many. You would say go to cue out, and then record 3.5. Then you can do that. But then Jaden gets grumpy at you because you made him call a point number, which is confusing to when you're trying to run a show. But if you need to do it, you need to do it. Just leave those gaps as much as you can. Say like you want it to be a bump. Say like this, go from here to a blackout that's supposed to be like a snappy, like at the end of Take Me or Leave Me, it goes straight to a blackout. It doesn't, sort of. I did some weird stuff. But then you hit, there's a button that's just time, 0, and that'll, oh, I've hit 0.0, and then I'll take it to there. So time, bump. I still have, okay. So you find your cue, and you figure out how fast you want it to go, which in this case is 0. Then there's time. So then it'll automatically fill out cue 3.5, which is what we're in. Time, 0, or 10 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, however long you want it to take to change. Then hit enter, you get the little diamond, that's how you know you put in a command and it officially recognizes it. Otherwise it'll give you an error that says channel numbers not recognized or some other error, but you know, if it's a diamond, it means it's been run. And then that means that time is 0 now. So you go back to your cue before, time 0, go, and it will take it out immediately.
So how did you make it go black?
Sorry. Okay.
How do you make it black out then?
So I went and recorded it. So I went and I said, go to, in Q1, I said, go to Q.
Q1's the purple.
Q1's the purple. Then I say, go to Q out. Then I
hit Q out,
then record.
Okay.
Then you hit record 3.5, and it's gonna ask me to confirm. Do you wanna record over something you've already pre-programmed?
Oh.
The answer in this case is yes. And then you'll have to say time 6 seconds now, or 3 seconds, 0 seconds, and then it'll do it. It defaults to 3 seconds for timing, so now this one will go really slow.
So all of your other cues, you were saying they were doing 3 seconds?
Yeah,
So you put something else in?
exactly. So it naturally defaults to 3 seconds. Just
Okay. And is that the only automation, is the fading in and fading out? Otherwise, basically, they're just turning on to whatever preset attributes you've put in?
yeah. So, and when you get more complicated, you can set it so that the time for them to go dark and the time for them to turn on and the time for the movers to move and the color to change, you can set those all individually. It's a lot more complicated. You're not gonna need to do that for any OPA thing.
But otherwise, it's just turning on
Turning
at
on.
the color you already put.
The color you already preset.
You already put.
Yeah. So that's just, you just make a look, record that look, and it's basically a screenshot.
Okay.
That's kind of the basics of lighting. To aim, to like, then you want your mover to be pointed at somebody. Josh, go be a model for a second. Don't stand in it so I can aim it to you. You just go, you pick the light, which, perfect. And then you take this pan and tilt, and that's how you move it to a spotlight for somebody.
Or you can grab the little yellow icon and move it that way too.
Yeah, but that one's really, so like, to try to like fiddle with it.
It'll make you feel so stupid, let me just say.
It will.
It's counterintuitive, it's really, goes so fast, right? Like you can't
Up is down, down
and
is
then
up.
it like, yeah.
I would,
Although you could really quickly, like if you were trying to take one mover and point it to the other side, you could use that, get it close,
And then dial
adjust
it in.
with the pan.
Yeah.
Right.
But do you do that manually during the show, or do you?
no, that's all pre-programmed. So Tech Day, that's why every time on
So that's what you're
Tech
like, hit
Day,
your mark because that's where it's.
that's where it's gonna be, it's gonna live there.
Is there still a way to manually put in the numbers? Like if I know I could read
Yes.
over a few times, that's still there?
So I like to do it usually for colors. You can do it with pan and tilt too if you know. So I'm gonna pick a color though so it makes more sense. So I take, and I just hit channel 57 sneak to put it back into its pre-programmed place. Just, that one's a very useful tool if you ever need it. So if I take group 3, which is these lights above us here, and I open ML controls, or moving light controls is what that stands for. And then I say, I actually want my red to be at 50, and I know it's 50, and I don't want to have to go like wiggle the dial for 30 minutes to do it in. You click the title at the top, it'll put it down in the command line, and then you can say 50. And then we'll go purple because it's RGB. The other option to get in there is if you open up your this control and you hit browser, if I can hit browser right. No, you're not gonna do it right? Okay, there we go. You also have the options in here. So I can say group 3 blue, and it just feels less intuitive to me because I always go through ML controls. But that's another option if you prefer that way. Yeah. So, let's see. Colors, moving movers, moving individual things, gobos. On our board for our hazer, you do not program the hazer into the show. Jaden will run that. You'll just describe it to him and how hazy it is. It is just on one fader right here on the right side, top row. And because it pumps, I know it's.
Last night we were dying.
Yeah, but it makes it look alert. Oh.
It does.
No, yeah, no. And if
High then? Where are they at?
the hazer, it is up on this shelf above this wall.
Okay.
Yeah. So it does make your lights look really pretty, but you don't want to drown your actors. Yeah, when the air turns on and off, that's the issue. If the AC is not on, it'll stick around for ages. But if the AC is on, go on.
So, let's say I wanted to do something fun where the lights spin.
Well,
Like,
yeah. So then okay. I was like, that's a little complicated, but if you go into, there's a menu that's called effect. So on the board, there's a key that's effect. If you double click it, it'll open up this screen that has all the things, all the effects that I built for various shows. Well, this is actually all just for Rent. These are all the effects I built for Rent. You won't need them. Those are very specialized, but these ones are the stock effects. Anything with a 901 through 917 or 18 are stock effects. They're just saved in there. Every new show file has them. But if I want all my moving lights to do a figure 8, you'll go to live. You'll figure out what your number is, which is 903 in this case. Live, go to your magic sheet, pick spots at full, turn them on, then effect. So it'll still have group 8 selected because you didn't clear it out. Effect 903, and then it will do a little dancey dance. Yeah.
And do you have to have your spots selected before that?
Yeah, because otherwise, if you only want one spot to do it, you only pick one spot. So yeah, and there's
Effects just for spots?
nope. So for the moving ones, yes, but 915, I want to say. So now I have this group selected, which is group 3. Effect 915. That one is a rainbow chase effect. So I think that one's the rainbow chase. Or is that not a ramp? No, that one's a ramp. So it's 917. So to clear an effect, it is just the fixture, group 3, effect enter, and that'll clear it out. So effect 917 is the rainbow chase. So you just make sure it's all centered on white, and then it will automatically circle around like the color wheel. And you can change speed and stuff. It gets a little complicated, but if you have more questions about that, just ask me, and we can like talk about it. You won't need this for most things. That's like pretty yeah.
So cool. Here's my question because I'm terrified.
It's okay.
Anything that we do via computer, can it irreparably damage the lighting system? Because I'm willing to play around with it as long as I know I can't, like,
As long as you don't save over anything, you should be fine.
okay.
What I would suggest when you come to play is create your own show.
Yeah. So that when we talked about saving a new show file, you can save one that's just called Opa Natalie or Opa Dan, Opa.
Natalie being an idiot.
Exactly.
2021.
Exactly. So that's kind of long and short of making a show. If you like have more questions, we can like do it like a one-on-one thing. If you like are doing a show, like I know Bo and Dan are doing a show soon.
Cam is too.
You're perfect. Yeah. So
I am not.
yeah. So that's kind of like the main thing. Is there any like general questions that aren't like super specific? Okay.
Don't know if this is a general.
Okay, that's okay.
So when you're doing an effect, say like the one in Rent, where the lights hit really fast and they switch and they hit really fast.
Okay.
How do you decide whether or not to use an effect or to use a zero dimming timer on a different light? Is that
How much does that happen is usually, because if you do a zero dimming, you're gonna have to build a billion cues to do it. So if you're doing something like in Today for You, it goes flash, 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 flash. That's an effect.
But like at the beginning of Contact.
Contact where
that's
it's
the song? Yes.
specific there, specific here.
Yeah. So Contact is a weird hybrid. So when it goes bum bum over here, bum bum over here, bum bum over here, the bumps, I guess, I don't know, are an effect that just runs for one cycle, and then each different person is a different cue.
Oh, okay. So that's actually just an effect. It's not that you're having to time it.
Yeah, so this one's an effect, and then once you move to the next position, that's a different key with a different effect in it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's where you would want to use an effect versus
yeah. So
that's that exact.
exactly, it's pretty exact. So like, if I went into Rent, I could go, like, Angel and Collins go, Roger and Mimi go. Oh no, Angel and Collins are down here, and then so you go, but then each little flicker is in an effect thing. Yeah.
Because when you have to call every dim, like if you were calling all
Mm-hmm. You'd have to call it. It'd be too many.
use the call.
Exactly.
Oh, that would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Do you have any? I've maybe already covered this. My sorry, it's a bit late.
Okay.
Color. Like, do you have any like general cues for make stupid mistakes with color or like
So
mixing different?
I have a color wheel over here.
Yeah.
If that helps. So like, is that what you mean or no?
I don't know. Like, I know there's color theory with art. I'm sure there's color theory with lights too. I'm just wondering if there's any like tricks or.
There's
Blue means night.
yeah, blue means night.
Yeah.
Yes, blue means night. Green. Green is bad for skin tone usually.
Yeah.
It also kills comedy, which is only sort of a joke. I would honestly, what I still do to this day, random roll test, is I like heavy saturated color, and that's not always what's the best option. If you're doing a play like Arsenic and Old Lace, you want to stick to mostly these colors right here. Or you can go and make something, but you don't want anything super dramatic until you want something dramatic. If you're doing Rent, then sometimes you need a little more color, but then like reality, that's why I'm really happy we got these lights, because they force you into having just a nice kind of general warm light.
Don't, and this is just my 2 cents, is you don't want to mix those nice warms with really cools unless you're specifically going for a weird contrasty thing. So if you're going to use the conventional whites, you want to make sure your LED whites match unless you specifically don't want them to match.
Yeah. So, okay.
Are you gonna? I was just gonna ask if you're gonna talk about how you call a show at all. Or
So-
if that's kind of like a different.
Usually it's just Jaden just runs the cues for you. You give them all the cues. So me and Jaden will have dry tech, or paper tech. We sit down and we go, okay, this cue goes on this word. And then once we get through all the cues, he has all the cues that are already pre-scripted in my brain, and I build those cues before tech day. Then you get to tech day, you tweak them so you look, like, oh, I thought that Joanne was down right, not up left. You tweak them, move the lights if you used to move her. If skin tones look wrong, you tweak that on tech day. And then during the actual like dress rehearsal, you just are usually on headset and say, Jaden, that cue was late, it should go on that beat. But to call a cue, what you should do is you'll talk with your light designer or your director and you say, when does this cue go exactly? And he goes, oh, it goes on beat 4, or it goes on the bump, or it has to go so that, you know, like, again, take me, leave me, it goes bum, bum, bum. Those are all auto follows. So those are 4 different cues that are 1, 2, 3, 4 that automatically follow each other. So they can go, so you have to stay before the beat so we can make it. Jaden's usually pretty good about it as long as you know what you want and you can, yeah.
So when you guys came to rehearsal, were you like still in the process of designing, or like what step was that for you guys?
For which rehearsal?
When you came and you were back with us back there?
Oh, designer run. So designer run, I already knew what I wanted it to look like. It was more so just to find
Figuring out
when exactly, where exactly you guys were, or general looks of like, okay, I know that Mark and Roger are standing side by side here. I can't put them in 2 separate isolation spotlights because they are cuddling or whatever.
The process of design, it starts with an early concept meeting where the director talks to the designers, and then the designers go and do their work and come back, and we have another meeting where we sort of show and tell, and then the designers sort of start working on stuff, and then they go to the designer run, which is where all the designers watch for the first time and go, oh, that costume won't work. That
to see if the blocking works.
Yeah, to see how it all fits together. And then from there, they do sort of their final designs.
Okay.
And then lights and sound do a paper tech, or some places call them dry tech, paper tech. You decide. And then what we do is very hard. We try very hard to have our lights done by tech, day of tech. So like Coulter, by the time he gets here on tech, usually all his lights are loaded in. It's all set. Jaden knows all the cues. And then all we have to actually do on tech day is tweaks.
Okay.
Some theaters are like a lot more build heavy on light cues during tech, and that's what causes like 3 days of 10 out of 12s.
Yeah.
And it's torture.
Okay.
So we're not that theater.
Trying to kill you.
How do you set up an autofollow?
An autofollow? That's a good question. So if I'm in, and then, okay.
He's been waiting for that one.
So right click to close tabs. There's a lot of tabs open right now that are just me putting back in stuff on. And the PSD list is your list of all your cues. So once you're running a show, this is the list you'll stay in. Cue number, how long the cue takes, and then a bunch of other info that doesn't really pertain in the simple concepts. The one you might want to use is label. So there's a button that's label. You have a keyboard. You can say purple if you know this is a purple cue, or blackout, or this is the light for like Elle doing her solo for whatever. I know, Legally Blonde's on the mind.
It's on mine too.
I know, it's okay. We'll have a lot of conversations, don't you worry. So for auto follow, what you do is you go into the cue that is before. So you have the first cue that you actually are hitting the go button on, and then it'll take a follow later on that goes into it. So say like this cue, this pink one, this is the bump of the numbered, and then I want it to automatically follow into a blackout. So you go here, you say cue, enter, and it will automatically say Q1, or if you want to be specific, you can type Q1. Then it's going to say, these buttons are called soft keys. They have, on the board, it says S1 through 6. They change depending on what menu you're in and what you have in the command line.
Sorry, Q enter.
Yeah, Q enter, so it'll say Q1. And then you have this button, which is FW/HG, because you have follow and hang, and to get to toggle between the two, you just click it again. So a follow starts its count right after you hit go. So if you say follow time 1, but it's a 3-second fade, you'll still have 2 seconds left. I'll show you that right now. So follow 1. So I go into this cue, Now we're here, it's 3 seconds, but 1 second in, it goes to the blackout, if that makes sense.
Nope.
Okay. So,
Just me? Nope,
okay.
not just you.
So we're in Q.7, and then once I go to Q1, it'll wait for 1 second, it'll count up here. It says it'll follow in 1 second, and it counts down. Maybe I'll do
It's
2.
even counting down your duration right on the screen.
Yeah, it counts it down. It's really nice. I want to set it to 2 seconds just so that it's a little easier to see. Follow 2. So it'll count here. As soon as I hit go, it starts counting, and then it will take the next cue, even if you're in the middle of it. So if you, yeah, so
Even if Q7.7 hasn't finished doing
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole effect cycle thing,
yeah, if Q1 in this case, but if Q1 has not finished moving, it'll automatically take it. Sometimes that's nice. Sometimes you want that. It gives a kind of like 1950s fade out effect, at least to me. But if you're like, oh no, I want this cue to finish and then I want it to go after, what you'll do is you'll go Q, soft key 2, and then soft key Q again, so it's Q1 hang. And then I say 1 second. And then it replaces that with an H1 instead of an F1. And now it'll wait to start counting until after this is fully finished, and then it starts, and then it goes.
So the other way, did it just stop the cue or did it mix the
It kind of mixes them. It's really weird. So whatever the latest is takes precedence. So if, say like, everything goes to a blackout in the second one, it'll take everything to a blackout on the same timing. But it's say like only half of it comes to a blackout, but this half will stay the same as whatever one is. It'll take it. It'll blend them together as well as it can.
question.
Yeah.
This might be a Josh shut up. It's a later.
It usually is.
But let's say I have a spot here,
Uh-huh.
and then I want to use that same light to spot here, but I don't want to see the light changing color and moving spot.
That's a good thing. That happens a lot. So say like I have 57 at full, and then it's pointed there, and it's purple. And then I record this into Q7, and then in 57, and then I want it to be yellow in the next Q, but I want it to be over somewhere else. See, that's why I don't like using that, because it's very finicky. So now it's over there, record Q8. And then once you go between the two, it does this weird like swingy fade that's kind of ugly. The easy way to fix that is you record you go in here, you take 57, or yeah, it depends on exactly what it is. You can either go in the first one or the later one, take 57 out, and then record 7.5. Oh, or 8.5. And then what you'll do is you'll probably take that one as a time 0, so it's a bump, turns it off instantly, and then it will move it in the dark, and then you can take it back up. Or you can auto follow it if you want also. So if you're like, well, now that's a time 0, but I don't want to have to make Jaden hit it twice, which Jaden appreciates. Remember, make Jaden happy and your lights will look pretty. So then you'll just do a follow 0, and since it's a time 0, it doesn't matter. It'll start the same time either way if you do a follow or a hang. So it's gonna, so if you go and you do a follow 0, since the time of the cue itself is also 0, it doesn't matter if you use a follow or a hang, because at the same, they're gonna start either way instantly. So if I hit that, it'll take it out and instantly move it and then turn it back on over there. I was like, that's kind of how you do that. Do we want to kind of play with the board for a little bit?
Really quick before
Yeah.
I have a question
Yeah.
because you've mentioned skin tones.
Yes.
We're all not colored the same.
Nope, it's alert. Sorry. Swearing is caring.
Any recommendations, tips?
Are there good websites that have maybe tutorials or advice or recommendations on lighting for theater or
Yeah.
Things like that you
So-
would recommend?
Like an example is when I learned not to use black in my art ever, or
Yeah.
very, very rarely, like my art got so much better. So I'm wondering if there's something like that with lighting. It's like that don't mix any warm with blues. Like, oh yeah, okay.
So it
Skin tone is a thing too.
skin tone is your main issue is make sure the actors are, you can see the actors and they don't look bad. That is your main goal. If you can find a crash test dummy who's just gonna stand there and you can practice on them.
Seriously though, do you actually do that? Because that's the hardest thing for programming lights when you don't have anybody.
I do. So if I can, sometimes I'll get Jaden to like just stand for me and I can mix to his skin tone, or Josh, and then you can A, aim the lights to them and it makes it easier, and B, do skin tones. There's been times like when we were doing Dreamgirls and it's an all black cast and we're in Utah and I don't have very much experience with lighting black people, I came in and did like lit over top of them during rehearsals just so I could see the lights on their skin tone. Okay. It's very much an experiment, especially because when you get into these LEDs, these are cheap and they're fine, they work great, but if someone goes and if you go online and say, oh, someone says that if you use red at 100 and blue at 50, it'll look perfect for this skin tone. They do not mix the same. They are different because they have different brightnesses. It's a lot of playing. It's a lot of messing around. There will be times when you get to tech day and you say, that just looks bad. Yeah, it's okay. No.
As a general rule, is there something like, I don't know, like I have red undertones in my skin. So like, is there something for someone who has a more florid complexion? Would you not use?
Green is the no-no zone.
Okay. Are there colors, but like for more pale people, would you use warmer tones?
I usually would.
Okay. I was wondering if there's a general rule of thumb to lighting different.
I like warmer tones, but again, are you trying to make them look pretty or are you trying to tell the story? What's the kind of goal? Usually you're making them look pretty. But if you're doing something super dramatic, that's like a moonlight lit scene in like Shakespeare, then you might want the very blue, like very cool blue. And if it makes their skin tones, you warm it up a little bit, but you got to figure out, and that's the game of playing.
I guess I'm just wondering, what do you mean by make them not look bad?
If you ever have questions, I would just bring someone to and like have them watch, because you've been staring at lights all day long, and then just like ask them how they were feeling while they're watching and be like, oh, that's what I was going for, or that's not what I was going for.
So like certain,
Yeah.
like we joked about it during tech for Rent, but like blue means dark because we can't have a fully blacked out stage,
Yeah.
but the moon is now blue light, so the audience goes, oh, it's dark.
1 second, Josh. So what you're asking is, the best way is, Josh, I'm gonna use an example, and I'm sorry. Josh is really pale. It's really hard to light him sometimes.
I just glow.
He glows. So on Josh, I would normally put more amber, except for, because it would warm him up. But then the story is like, if you're not in a sunny place, then you gotta like work on it. It is a game. If you have like specific questions, you're like, oh, I need this scene. I default to warm. That's why I like these guys. Like, these guys naturally are pretty warm. They're a good cure-all. They make basically anyone's skin tone look good. So that's why I'm glad we had these. If you ever are nervous or worried about like, oh my gosh, I want to be able to see their face, but I don't know what color to mix to, put these on. They kind of are good for everybody.
And they're pretty evenly washed across the stage.
They're pretty even washed, yeah.
So could you do like a test try, like right now, have Josh stand on the stage and you light him in like night?
Show us the terrible different things that we can do with Josh.
Sure.
Or maybe do two different people.
Yeah. But we can start with Josh, because Josh has also got to teach sound, and I don't want to take all of his time too. So if you see Josh right now, again, kind of pale, but that's at full. You never want to use full in this space unless you're making a statement. That's kind of more of just a thing, because the ceiling's so low, you're so close to the lights, it's kind of weird. But if you do 30, yeah. But if you're 30, now Josh is kind of like this, a little more golden. That's kind of the game. So you have purple on his face, and then yeah, purple on his face. Nope, I just changed the intensity on these conventionals. Okay. Yeah. So let's see. So if you play, and these little movers, they're not great because they're falling apart. They have two colors in them. They have amber and they have blue, which mix to purple. But for amber face light, it's kind of nice. So you would take it and you would go, I want to turn everything off besides the amber, which is over here. Aim it towards Josh. And then you look at, you basically, then you look at him and you go, does he look sick and or dead? And that's kind of, not just Josh, everybody.
That's what you mean by bad.
Yeah, Does he look like if you're Lurch or Fester, then maybe it's a good thing. For Addams Family, I use a lot of green face light because it paled them out and made them look kind of dead. In this case, for Rent or for Legally Blonde or for whatever else, you don't usually want them looking dead unless you're trying to tell a story through that way.
Or unless they are dead.
Exactly, or they are dead. If it's a ghost, then you might want to make them pale and washed out. The other thing to consider is backlight gives you shape, side light gives you shape, face light is to see the emotions. Except for in this space, it's all the light, so you hate yourself. It's a hard game to play. So right now, Josh looks great from this angle, but from this way, he's all blue, and he kind of is weird. So that's, again, another game to play, and that's just something you figure out as you practice, as you learn.
Good to at least have two directions unless you're being really dramatic.
Yeah, if you can, try to like semi-match each side of the stage in this space. A thing that I sometimes do is I will go and steal a mannequin from Amanda, stick it on the stage, and I can turn it on, walk around, look at the mannequin and see, oh, that doesn't have very much. This doesn't have enough face light on this side. Is that okay? Am I making a statement or am I just not filling in the face light very well? The trick that I like to do to solve that face light issue, or tend to, is I'll take the outside and I'll make it my color that like gives color and interest, and then I'll take the inside and I'll make it one of my whites, and then it kind of balances out. So you still have a white light coming from over there, but you also have the purple, which will give it texture and interest and stuff. Yeah. Yes. Any other questions before I let you guys like play for a little bit? Yeah.
LED screen. So.
Oh, it sucks. I love it, but it also is a pain.
It's so hard because I programmed the whole show and not with LED screen on, and I had to reprogram the whole thing.
Yes.
So one thing that
any tricks or tips about that would be awesome.
turn it down.
Yeah. So the LED screen, there's a way if you can turn the brightness down. That helps a lot, but there's a certain line of just at what point do we lose the LED screen and it no longer becomes visible, and you have to balance that out. If you can, LED screen is usually set in our space, so they'll come in with like the design, but the brightness, because the screen's bright, very bright. So you have to kind of account for that in your design. Usually it doesn't bug me too much because once I put my lights on over top of it, unless you're trying to do like a blackout, they kind of mix together and mingle out. If you can, talk with your set designer and be like, listen, what colors are we using so I can kind of make them bleed out through it? Yeah.
So like for Rent, most of the backgrounds are
Gray.
very gray, and
That was
they're
easy.
not very intense. So it almost looks like just something pasted on the wall versus for Beauty and the Beast at the theater, they were animations and you didn't want them to be washed out, so they were brighter.
That screen will always beat you, no matter what. That screen, you will never win against that screen. You have to work around the screen. And if it's, what I've noticed helps me a lot is these bar lights, they're up here. If you turn them on, they give a nice kind of fill that sort of acts as a barrier almost. So that because once you stand up in that area, the screen just silhouettes you. But if you do that, it helps give you enough shape that the screen doesn't wash you out. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So saving went over, but do we all remember how to do that? So you go down into here, go to browser. You might have to double click it. File, save as, if you need a save. And then you go find where your folder is with your name, double click on it, the whole nine, it'll ask you, are you sure? And then go to power off device, which is down in here. Double click it, say, are you sure? You do all that. And then you make sure your breakers and everything are off. Yeah, so there is a shortcut once you get it done. It's shift on the keyboard and update, but that won't make a backup. So it'll only overwrite it. So if you want a backup, which is usually useful to have, you'll have to go in and save as. So that if you eventually somehow save it wrong and something happens and you are like, oh crap, I ruined the entire show and now there's half the lights missing from it, you have a backup. That's why I like to go save as.
Does it only save the most recent backup, or does it save?
It saves all the way back. So if for whatever reason you decide, screw it, I want to go back to the very first rendition I made of this show, for whatever reason, you can. Yeah.
So we should do a walk around and show
Yeah, let's go look at the breakers real fast so we can show you all.
You didn't have the ML sheet up for when they did their lighting project.
Yeah,
You designed your
because that was so freaking confusing.
It's because you're not supposed to use magic sheets constantly. Well, okay. How about this?
That's so helpful. Thanks.
When you're building a plot for an actual show, you don't want to because you need to know how to number your channels and you need to have them memorized. When you have that moment, then you know exactly where all your lights are. But for our purposes, you'll have me on speed dial, and you can call me. I have business cards if you guys want them to text or call with any questions. Yeah. So the board. Let me walk back here. Usually there's children. It's the green ones right here. Green ones right here. Green ones right here. The pink one right here, and I think this one as well. Control some stuff in the booth for sound.
So this one is the soundboard side of the booth, and this is the lighting board side of the booth.
So you don't really want to kill those if you're in the middle of like Josh is working because he'll get grumpy.
Literally, that's the song.
Is that what they're doing?
Yeah.
I love that. And then
Sounds like Riverdance.
over here is the big screen. So the LED wall. If you ever need to turn it on or off, that's what this section down here is.
I still don't really understand which ones I'm turning on if I'm by
The
myself.
green tape,
All of them?
green tape, all of them.
Okay, because when you go like this, I think you mean just 21 and 27. You mean all of them?
I mean anything with the green
Okay,
tape next to
gotcha.
it. Yeah.
Just not the
Anything
pink
that
one.
looks like that
Well-
yellow is light. See how they're light?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. That was intentional. The pink you should turn on because there's some lights that are on it, but there's also stuff in the booth. So if Josh is in there working on sound, don't shut him off because he'll get grumpy because it won't save his thing.
Okay.
The only time you would really ever need the pink one separately is if Josh was just working on sound.
Yeah.
In general, anytime you do this, you're going to turn on all those yellow ones, even if they're pink as well.
Yes.
Pink is really just so that we know which one is only the sound.
Exactly. And then in here, there's not a set piece? Good. So this is the dimmer box. So there's 12 outlets on the bottom. They all kind of coil up to the ceiling. On this end, there's 13 switches. This is the only one that matters on the very end. That's the master switch, and then each outlet has its own switch. Only touch this one unless there's a reason to touch the other ones. But when you turn on and off at the end of the night, you only need the one.
Okay, so for those of us that are vertically challenged, can we like go up and feel and
Yeah.
make sure that
Yep. It's just
And it's pulled towards you as off.
yeah, towards you is off. So over, all the way over.
So that's
Yeah.
new, right?
That's new.
This controls anything that's conventional. So all of the new face light and the lights around the screen.
Okay.
So things that aren't
Yeah.
LED dimmable,
Okay.
this is a dimmer rack for those things.
Okay.
So this allows us to have better face light and things like that.
That's helpful.
Is there an order to turn these on or off?
Board goes on first and off last. Otherwise, no. Yeah, that's lighting in a nutshell, I guess. I know it's a lot to handle. Feel free to ask me questions if you're running a show or something. If you want to do something more complicated, more detailed, we can. That's I guess the basics. Yeah. Okay.